all the same way. Like, oh, they're beefing with each other because of shame, anger, unresolved issues, whatnot. There may be other extenuating factors contributing to that beef. So I just want to say that. But yeah, I have noticed that bottoms tend to beef with other bottoms.
Another and their shame onto one another as a way to resolve the shame, resolve the anger. It's very important that you really are crystal clear about what shame is and the anger that always comes with shame. You have multiple needs in your life, and you can look at the hierarchy of needs from Maslow and psychologists. You'll see that sex is never going to answer all your needs. You're not going to have them met through sex, no matter how much you try. No matter how kinky you get, the sex will never give you the satisfaction and fulfillment. And so because of the lack of satisfaction, lack of fulfillment, you're going to be super pissed off about it. And that anger is the starting point for all of this. Okay, so you have the anger. In case you don't understand what shame is simply miniaturization. You're minimizing yourself. And the minimization is the outcome of trauma, the homophobia. Homophobia causes you to miniaturize yourself, shame yourself, minimize yourself, and now you don't get your needs met, you're compensating, you enter into the anger side.
I definitely agree with what you're saying about anger. And people not voicing their needs. I've noticed this about really men specifically, is they will be mad at you about stuff they never told you about. Like, if you never told me you have an issue with abandonment and I do something, and you just get mad without explaining to me why you're upset and the history behind that trauma, I'm like, what the F? Like, I have friends that have cut off dudes, potential good men, because they feel like they weren't being tested enough. They feel like he wasn't responding enough. And I think that all this stuff is childish. You have to out of your trauma, your emotional wounds, So I do agree with him with the unresolved trauma and that contributes to anger, because a lot of gay men are evil, and we have a right to be evil. A lot of things have been taken from us. We've lost a lot of time in life.
Now all that anger is cooking inside you. Some people express it, some people swallow it up, and guess what? They only use sex to come in contact with it, to come in contact with the shit.
He's saying that we use sex to come in contact with our shame. It's almost like I don't know if it's not abusive. It's that situation where being abused and you want to go and do that abusive.
You can't feel trauma and you can't feel shame. Those two emotions are not accessible to us. You're going to have to use a different modality to access shame, to access trauma. And anger, some people can express it, some people put it inside themselves. You need other mechanisms to come in contact with that anger. Alright, so are you still with me? You pulse a little bit because you will get to the second step. And now, slowly and gently, you go into framework number 2. Pleasure. There are 3 forms of pleasure. There's the pure pleasure, there is the pleasure and pain, the physical pain. And pleasure, physical pain, and psychological pain. Each form of pleasure is going to be the strongest, the most complicated, the richest. The form of pleasure that's the most intricate is the one where there is a mixture of true pleasure with physical pain and psychological pain. Let me ask you, when you have your fantasy about sex, do you fantasize about being abused? Do you have sexual fantasies that involve someone hurting you or teaching you in an abusive way? And to be honest, you can say, yes, I have them. I have them too. Everybody has them. Or most people have them because we have been shamed by society.
This reminds me of the larger conversation and what he said about how when you listen to the audio of the older people, they can think about listening I think the understanding of things is also informed even more into that because if he didn't want it, he would have number one not signed up to go for the God. Number two, he would have pushed him off the way. I think is at the bottom. I feel like you push people off the way. I want to acknowledge that if you're being traumatized, it's such a freeze response. Some people go through. So it's not just, oh, fight the dudes off the everybody can fight. Everybody's not able to fight. Some people freeze and make people run away from the fight. So I want to acknowledge that. That's the thing.
And that shame causes the militarization. The militarization causes the anger, and one of the ways to release that anger is through violent sex, or volatile sex, or the fantasy of volatile sex. I want to share this with you because if you ever feel like there's something wrong with you because you have these fantasies, don't. Because this is a normal behavior of your consciousness to try to resolve the shame, try to resolve the anger, try to resolve all this complicated psychological phenomenon that's cooking up inside all of us, all gay men. Being raped is a common fantasy with gay men because we are ashamed, minimized, there's anger. And that rape is a way to come in contact with that anger and resolve it. Come in contact with what I call is the value of shame, place in our consciousness that we can make contact with through being humiliated. Once you get humiliated, you actually make contact with your shame. And there are very few ways we can make contact with our shame, with our trauma. And that's one of them. And that's why when a man gets fucked,
He mentions religion as a way that we get in contact with our shame, especially during, situations where we're being, we're extracting the power top, we're extracting the things that, it's just going in, and going hard, going in, what, we're looking for these different situations. I will say, I can see how that's possible. I've never been in those situations before, because I've only kind of bottomed one man with my friends. I don't have a lot of experience with different positions, different sides, so I can see how, a larger piece can be more clear to the guy, when I watch, adult content, I'm sure about what I see on YouTube. When I watch this content, I don't mind watching it about it. I don't mind watching it. I don't mind watching I don't mind watching content because I feel like it's exciting for one. It's enjoyable. Fun. I've never again been in one of those situations, but I just feel like it doesn't always have to take us going through a type of shame. I think people want these bigger apparatuses and these power play situations because it's pleasurable for them. Like they may find it physically pleasurable, not trying to be touched at the same time. It's like, oh, it feels good. Like it feels good to feel like cool. To feel cool down there. It feels good to like know that you're taking on taking on that manhood and like you're taking it like a champion, you're going, you're looking to go win and do these are many ways to go. Not just only there's multiple factors to it, there's multiple levels to the pleasure that you achieve on the bottom.
like a little bit. Then if you get spot a little bit more, you get spot a lot, you create a whole identity around it, and from there, you become. And that's why all these men become bottoms. Because they experience not just pleasure, they experience pleasure, physical pain because they launch penises, cause pain, and that's why people get coppers and they numb themselves out, stretch themselves to not feel their pain. To be authentic, to be really honest, in most cases there's pain. Some people bleed. And that pain is part of the connection with anger and the release of anger. If the person does not know how to release the anger with words, with demonstration of it, with other people, with therapy or putting a pill, that anger will be released with shame. And also, that's the shame.
So that's again, something I don't agree with you. about it. We use like a joke every now and then. It's like joke with Papa, Papa. I can see like, oh, he's releasing anger by taking this mask. It's just pleasure. Like, he's emphasizing, oh, what if this is a real person? Instead it's a Joe going in the scene, that's doing the work for him. But like, he's emphasizing that he's in a real encounter with a real person. And he's actually giving physical pleasure. Process that we are undergoing when we're having sex. That makes sense because this guy is saying that it is. So,
value of shame that's reachable through volatile sex, often volatile sex happens when the top is penetrating the bottom, especially if the penetration involves large objects, large penises. It is almost impossible, it is impossible to compete with that kind of pleasure. Compete with pain is because it involves psychological dimensions that can never be present during normal sex without pain. As a side note, I do not participate with anal intercourse, either way, it's the bottom or it's the top, because of what I've learned about this, and because of what I'm sharing with you. I don't want to be either on the receiving end or on the active end as a sadist or masochist. Because to be honest, whenever there's pain, there's always a dynamic of
a sadist and a masochist interaction, like this man is saying. I really don't see it that deep, and I think he's going to explain why he feels it so deeply, but it's not that deep. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this through his body, he's feeling me, like, we want to connect, we want to be intimate, and that's just what it is. It's like, we want to connect, we want to have sex, we want to please each other, like, that's what it is. Let's let him continue.
sadomasochism. And God opens up a Pandora box to another video. And I will create it in the future. Because all of these dynamics are happening for everybody all the time. The moment we bring a psychological microscope and actually look at what's happening, in most cases in our interactions with each other, there's pain, either physical or psychological. And there's re-exposure to trauma in most cases. And there is a relationship that we can call out when there is this sadomasochistic pattern. That's the trauma bonding. That's why once a gay man enters into their bottom identity, no matter what you tell him, no matter how you try to convince him with education about sex, he does not want to do it because he is no longer himself. He becomes a different person. And he experiences cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is
bro, what bottoms are you talking to? Like, who are you talking to? Because men ebb and flow out of like their sexual desires. Like those change throughout time. Like I know dudes that were bottoms for like maybe 5 years, and they discover being top to school, or they met a new dude and discover this position and stuff like that. Like for example, in my case, I was a strict top before I met my husband because that's what my boyfriends at those times, that's what they wanted from me. They wanted the fantasy from me. They didn't give me the opportunity to explore myself, even voice my sexual desires. I wasn't even allowed to tell these dudes what I liked sexually because I didn't know I had the right to. Like, it was just a body being used by my boyfriend at that time, and I didn't know it. It's not until I met my husband that I realized, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be coming or having an orgasm during sex. I'm supposed to be experiencing that. I'm supposed to be receiving pleasure from sex because I did not know that I was supposed to prior to meeting my husband. We'll let him go on.
Perturbation of mind, like an earthquake that happens whenever we are in the chronic state of trauma. Similar to post-traumatic stress disorder, but post-traumatic stress disorder happens with acute trauma. Here we're talking about a combination of acute trauma with sadomasochistic sex, penises, pain of the body, and the neglect to stop it, and trauma, which is the consistent minimization that's happening when gay men interact with one another. As a result of all of this, we enter into cognitive dissonance. Now, a lot of these concepts are advanced concepts from psychology. I will be talking about them over and over and over in the next several videos. Because we need all of this. Once you understand all of this, you'll be able to resolve some of these very complicated states of mind in your own consciousness. In my life, I had a lot of teachers that helped me escape the boundary of trauma and shame. And I also had interesting people that gave me the taste of psychedelics. When you're muscles, for example, you're able to enter into pure love. When you are in a state of pure love, you are able to look at yourself and recognize your trauma, recognize your shame, and you are capable that there is so much more in this situation to daily life than what we are normally.
I had experiences like this when they consume marijuana, mushrooms, they're able to see themselves for the first day, fully remember the trauma, yeah, what he's saying about that is true. And I just want to highlight that too. Came from his experiences on mushrooms. So that's why I want to, tell you guys to be cautious about how much you gain from this video because this is like when you're coming from being on drugs. This is what he realized when he was high on drugs. So I don't as viable. I don't think it's worth that. These are pure opinions and beliefs. They are not factual. There's no evidence to support his claim. Therefore, they cannot be called fact.
Who's experiencing. And this is why my communication often is different with you, because I come from a space of that higher consciousness of daily life. I no longer participate in anal intercourse because of the dynamics I'm sharing with you today. And I enter into that pure love consciousness with help of mind. That it is a constant in my life. Every year in my birthday, I treat myself to a mushroom session. Non-duality, in my opinion, are most powerful. Mindfulness, meditation, distancing yourself from your own sensation of trauma and shame, and then reconnecting yourself to that pure innocence that's inside. And that's the topic for a different video. So now, I hope that you understand why bottom men are remaining bottom forever. Why it's so difficult to break that cycle for them is because they retain as physical, psychological, as part of the universe, and as a cognitive system, perturbation of the mind, where there's no more logic, no more reason. They are in a state of mind that is psychologically like a earthquake, like a chronic earthquake that's going on all the time. When you interact with them, you can't interact with them normally. The only way they're going to welcome you to your life is if you represent to them a mechanism